What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm making NFL Week 15 picks, so let's hop into it. And if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. It would really mean a lot to me. But anyway, last week my record was 7-8 picking NFL games, which is the third time this season that I've been under 500 for a week. So I apologize for that. And that brings my overall record to 122-86. And it really didn't help last week that I got every single primetime game wrong. But hey, it is what it is. So hopping straight to the picks, we have the Los Angeles Chargers on the road at the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football this week, an AFC West matchup. And I have the Raiders winning this game. Justin Herbert has been ruled out with a broken finger, so he will not be playing, and it will be the Chargers' backup quarterback, Easton Stick. And I'm not going to sit here and lie. I don't know really anything about him, but I do know this Chargers offense has struggled these past couple of weeks, only scoring 7 points in their loss last week to the Broncos, and then only scoring 6 points in their win against the Patriots a couple of weeks ago. So really pretty lackluster on the offensive front. And taking Herbert out of the equation, I don't think is really going to help their case. The Raiders, on the other hand, they did lose last week as well to the Vikings in a 3-0 game, probably one of the more boring games, but still their defense has the ability to shut teams down. And I think that's just what's going to happen this week against the Chargers is this Raiders team will be able to shut their offense down. And the fact that they are division opponents kind of helps their case a little bit. So I have the Raiders winning this game by a score of 13-10. Then we actually have a few Saturday games, and our first one is the Minnesota Vikings on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals, and I do have the Bengals winning this game. Both of these teams have identical 7-6 records. The Bengals came off a huge win against the Indianapolis Colts last week. The Vikings also coming off a win against the Raiders in that 3-0 game. And I'm going to be honest, when Joe Burrow went down with his season-ending wrist injury, I wrote the Bengals off. I'm not going to lie. But Jake Browning has stepped in and proved that this Bengals team, they still have life. They still have a chance to make it to the playoffs. They have the offensive weapons to do so. And with how tightly contested the AFC is, this Bengals team is not out of the running yet. The Vikings, they're still in the running too at 7-6. But out of these two teams, I do have a lot more confidence in the Bengals. And some devastating news for the Vikings is last week they got Justin Jefferson back, but he only played like 15 snaps and then left the game with a chest injury, so he's questionable for this game. And if the Vikings don't have him, their offense, they only scored 3 points last week. Nick Mullins had to come in and be the quarterback. So their offense, kind of like the Chargers, really isn't doing much as of late. The Bengals put up 30 last week against the Colts, and I think they're going to put up 30 again this week against the Vikings. So I have them winning this game by a score of 31-17. Then our second Saturday game, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road at the Indianapolis Colts, another game of two 7-6 teams, and I do have the Colts winning this game. The Steelers will be without quarterback Kenny Pickett again, so Mitch Trubisky will start. And the Steelers, they lost last week to the Patriots. The Colts lost last week to the Bengals. So both of these teams are looking for a rebound. They're both sitting at 7-6. Both of these teams hold the final two wild card spots, so one of them is going home with a loss. And the reason I have the Colts beating the Steelers is the Steelers will be without quarterback Kenny Pickett again, so it will be Mitch Trubisky starting. And his first start against the Patriots really didn't go well. They lost that game at home. So the Steelers are reeling at this point. The Colts, they are also coming off a loss, but still, I have a little bit more faith in them than the Steelers. I've seen some things that the Steelers are having some tension in their locker room, which is never a good sign, especially this late in the season, and especially when you're still in the running for a wild card spot and they hold down one of the spots. So there's a little bit of dysfunction going on with the Steelers. At least that's what it looks like online. And if that Steelers Patriots game last week was any indication of how Mitch Trubisky and this team is going to be playing forward, I really have zero hope in them. So I do have the Colts winning this game, a close one, by a score of 24-16. And then we have our Saturday night football game. We have the Denver Broncos on the road at the Detroit Lions, and I do have the Detroit Lions winning this game. The Broncos coming off a win over the Chargers. The Lions are coming off a loss against the Bears, who they've struggled against the Bears this year. They probably should have lost both the games, but they were able to squeak out the first one, but the Bears made sure that they weren't going to win the second one. And this is a game I really struggled picking. I feel like it is a coin toss, and I don't really have a real reason why I went with the Lions. It's just kind of more of a gut feeling. The Broncos are playing good. They're another 7-6 teams. There are a ton of 7-6 teams in the AFC, all vying for the last couple of wild card spots. Detroit, they're just trying to keep pace with the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the 49ers in the NFC. So yeah, I have the Lions winning this game, not for a real reason, just kind of more of a gut feeling, which I don't like doing in these videos. I normally have more reasons, but I struggled picking this one, and I have the Lions winning a one-score game by the final score of 27-24. So moving on to our Sunday slate of games, our first game we have the Chicago Bears on the road at the Cleveland Browns, and I do have the Browns winning this game. The Bears coming off a huge win against the Lions last week. The Browns coming off a pretty big win against the Jacksonville Jaguars as well, in a game where their defense forced 4 turnovers. Joe Flacco had over 300 yards, 3 touchdown passes, and this Browns team can be pretty dangerous down the stretch, as I have them being my dark horse AFC team this year. But Justin Fields and this Bears team have come on as of late, and they are playing pretty good football. And the reason I have the Browns over them is one, how well Joe Flacco is playing, coming off the couch, 38 years old, slinging the ball around. So he's the main reason I have the Browns. And the second reason I have the Browns winning is because their defense has been pretty lights out at home. Even though they gave up 27 points last week, they had 3 picks, they forced a fumble, had 4 sacks as well. So pretty dominant performance. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the Browns linebacker, is having a breakout year. Super fast guy. And I think he'll be able to shut Justin Fields down in the run game, force him to throw, drop back, and then that lets the Browns defensive line kind of take care of business. And the Browns should be getting Denzel Ward back this week, so he'll be able to go up against DJ Moore. So the Browns reinforcements are coming for them, and I think the Browns are ready to just take that next step forward. So I have them winning this game by a score of 28-23. Then we have an NFC South showdown. We have the Atlanta Falcons on the road at the Carolina Panthers, and I do have the Falcons winning this game. The Falcons are currently in a 3-way tie for first place in the division with the Saints and the Buccaneers. So a win right here over the Panthers not only can separate them from the pack a little bit, it does get them back to the 500 mark, which is a good thing. In Carolina, they're 1-12. They've already been eliminated from the playoffs. So there's really not too much going on with them. I do think they will put up a pretty decent fight, as they got players playing for their jobs, coaches coaching for their jobs at this point. But I do think Atlanta can just edge them out in the end and win a rather low scoring game by a score of 16-10. And then we have a battle of 6 and 7 teams. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road at the Green Bay Packers, and I do have the Packers winning this game. The Buccaneers did win last week against the Falcons. Packers lost on Monday Night Football to the New York Giants in what was pretty much just a straight up loss. Tommy DeVito led the Giants down, kicked a game winning field goal, and there really wasn't anything the Packers could do about it. Jordan Love led them down the field, scored a touchdown with around a minute remaining, so I don't think there was really underlying factors in that loss. The Buccaneers, they're in that NFC South, 6 and 7 in that 3-way tie. And this was another game where I really think it's a toss up. It was a tough pick, but once again, I do have the Packers winning it by a score of 23-20. Then moving on over to the AFC South, we have the Houston Texans on the road at the Tennessee Titans. And I have the Tennessee Titans winning this game. I know it seems like I've picked a lot of home teams at this point, but that will change in this video, I promise. And the Texans might be without quarterback CJ Stroud, as he is in concussion protocol. He ended up leaving that Jets game that they lost last week. The Titans, Will Levis, stunned the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. They were down 14 points with less than 3 minutes to go, and they came all the way back and won. So they're feeling good about themselves. They're sitting at 5-8, so they are a super long shot to make the playoffs. They need a lot of help to get in, but hey, there is still a chance. And the reason I'm picking them is because quarterback CJ Stroud. If he's playing in this game, I'm picking the Texans 100%. But with the chance that he isn't there, he's got a clear protocol. And if he does, then he plays, and I would pick the Texans. But it's kind of just up in the air because some quarterbacks like Brock Purdy was able to make it back from protocol pretty quickly. Others like Dorian Thompson-Robinson of the Browns, he had to wait a little bit. And I don't think Davis Mills leading this Houston Texans team is a recipe for success. So without their rookie gunslinger in Stroud, I have a hard time picking them. So that's why I picked the Titans. But because it is a divisional game, I do think it will be pretty close, and I have the Titans winning by a score of 20-17. And then moving on over to the AFC East, we have another divisional game. This time it is between the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. And I have the Miami Dolphins rebounding with a win. And the Jets came off a huge win against the Texans last week, just keeping their playoff hopes alive, hoping Aaron Rodgers might decide to come back this season. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I probably wouldn't, just for the sake of being fully healthy next year, but that's kind of besides the point. The Dolphins blew that game against the Titans, and more importantly, Tyreek Hill suffered an ankle injury, so his status is kind of up in the air. He was able to return to that game, but in a super limited capacity, and he wasn't even on the field in that final drive. So the Dolphins, without their top weapon, is kind of scary for Dolphins fans. But even though Zach Wilson balled out for the Jets last week, I've also seen him have some pretty horrible games this year. So are the Jets going to get last week's Zach Wilson, or are the Jets going to get a previous version of Zach Wilson that makes you scratch your head and wonder how he ever made it to the league? And just with that uncertainty, I favor the Dolphins in this game. They get a bounce back win and keep their hopes for the number one playoff seed alive, as I have them winning this game by a score of 24-20. And then moving back over to the NFC, we have the New York Giants on the road at the New Orleans Saints, and I do have the New York Giants pulling off the upset on the road. I don't know how big of an upset it is with a 5-8 team beating a 6-7 team, but Tommy DeVito is legit. He was able to beat the Green Bay Packers, who are a better team than the Saints, in my opinion, even though they both have the same record. And the Saints are just another one of those NFC South teams that have ultimately kind of struggled this year. Not too consistent. Good games, bad games. The Saints did win last week against the Panthers, but it's the Panthers for crying out loud. And the Giants keep their slim playoff hopes alive with a win right here. So I have them winning this game by a score of 21-13. So moving back over to the AFC, we have the Kansas City Chiefs on the road at the New England Patriots, and I do have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. The Patriots, even though they won last week against the Steelers, they were eliminated from playoff contention, so they were the second team to be eliminated following the Panthers, who were eliminated a week prior. But the Chiefs, they lost to the Bills at home. There was definitely some frustration within that Chiefs locker room. If you watch that game, you know Patrick Mahomes kind of blew up at the end there on the refs, where the refs actually made the right call for once. So the Chiefs did drop to 8-5, and who better to rebound against than the 3-10 Patriots? So they shouldn't have much trouble with the Patriots. But hey, crazier things have happened. But the Chiefs definitely need to address their wide receiver situation. Kadarius Toney costing this team in many aspects of the game, lining up offsides last week, just his drops overall. So if the Chiefs want to make a deep playoff run, I do think they need to address that. But in this game, just between the Chiefs and the Patriots, I think they get the job done relatively easily, and I have them winning 35-10. So back on over to the NFC, we have the Washington Commanders, who are coming off their bye against the Los Angeles Rams. And I have the Rams winning this game. The Rams have been playing pretty good football as of late. They took the Ravens to overtime and then lost on a punt return, so that was kind of devastating. And funny enough, that's the second time this season we've seen a punt return walk-off touchdown in overtime, which is cool, but it's kind of odd that it's happened twice. And the Commanders, they're sitting at 4-9. They haven't really been playing good, but the Rams are still in the thick of it, and I think they just take care of business in this game. I'm not trying to overthink it right here, but yeah, like I said, I think they just take care of business and win this game 31-21. Then moving on over to the NFC West, we have the San Francisco 49ers on the road at the Arizona Cardinals, and I do have the San Francisco 49ers winning this game. They were the first team to clinch a playoff spot last week, so the 49ers are officially in, but I know they want to get that number one seed. They're tied with the Cowboys at a 10-3 record, but because they beat the Cowboys early on in the season, they do have the tiebreaker over them, so they're sitting at that one spot. And this is a game that they just have to win if they want that number one seed. They can't lose games like this against the Cardinals. But regardless, the 49ers, I have them winning pretty easily by a score of 30-17. And then we have the game of the week. We have the 10-3 Dallas Cowboys on the road at the 7-6 Buffalo Bills. And I have the Dallas Cowboys winning this game. Cowboys playing really good football. They pounded the Eagles last week at home, and that brings their home win streak to, I want to say, like 14 or 15 straight games. So they are a dominant team at home. But this game isn't at home, it is in Buffalo. So I do think it will be a close game. It won't be a blowout like last week's Eagles game. The Bills coming off a huge win against the Kansas City Chiefs, keeping their playoff hopes alive at 7-6. But a loss here knocks them back down to 500 and just makes it that much more difficult for them to make the playoffs. And Dak Prescott has a serious case for MVP. He's playing lights out, and I know Dallas Cowboys fans are super hopeful for this season. Hopefully there is no late season or playoff crash and burning for this Cowboys team, but I think they go into Buffalo, a heavyweight slugfest, and they come out on top by a score of 33-28. Then on Sunday Night Football, we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I do have the Baltimore Ravens winning this game. The Ravens are sitting at 10-3. They have the number one seed in the AFC. A win over the Jaguars just improves their case a little bit more. In this Jaguars team, I advocated, if you watched last week's video, to not start Trevor Lawrence. They started him anyway. He got sacked 4 times, threw 3 interceptions, just a really bad game. And it doesn't get much easier for the Jaguars this week. They have the Baltimore Ravens. So the Jaguars had 3 AFC North teams, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Ravens in consecutive weeks, and that's just tough for any team. But at least with this game, they are at home. But I don't think that matters. The Ravens are coming off a win against the Rams. They're playing good. Jacksonville's pretty banged up. I think the Ravens will just take care of business on the road. I have them winning this game by a score of 26-13. And then closing out the week on Monday Night Football, we only have one Monday night game this week. We have the Philadelphia Eagles on the road at the Seattle Seahawks, and I do have the Eagles winning this game. They're another NFC team sitting at 10-3. The Seahawks were without quarterback Geno Smith last week in their loss to the 49ers, and he's still questionable for this game, so it could be Drew Lock again. And if that's the case, the Eagles definitely need to win this game just to keep pace with the 49ers and the Cowboys. So I do have the Eagles on the road winning this game, a close game, by a score of 27-20. So yeah, those are my NFL Week 15 picks. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, if you would change any games. But anyway, I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you with another video. God bless.